What up, guys? This is Q, aka the Xeno Hunter, aka Inupiaq. Today I'm going to talk about the different realms, the 9 realms according to Norse mythology, and apparently also Native American mythology. Alright, so I wanted to start off talking about what most people are familiar with, which is the 9 realms of Norse mythology. This isn't a terribly well-known topic, but it is pretty well known that the Norse mythology has 9 realms. Most people don't know what they are. Most people don't know what they're called. The easiest way to get information about the 9 realms is to watch a video on YouTube. 18 minutes. Ooh, 5 minutes. I like short. Short. Let's go with something short so we can continue with the topic. Alright, so I found this video by Mythology and Fiction Explained. Has 1.49 million subscribers. And this video is called The 9 Worlds of Norse Mythology. Let's check it out.
There are 9 worlds in Norse mythology. These worlds are held in the branches and roots of the world tree, Yggdrasil. Today we take a closer look at these worlds and the gods and beings that inhabit them. Asgard is the fortress home of the gods, ruled by Odin, the leader of the Aesir tribe. Both Valhalla and Folkvanir are located in Asgard, where the honoured dead go if they are chosen, making Asgard the closest thing to a heaven in Norse mythology. Asgard is divided into many realms, including Valhalla, the home of Odin, Thrudheim, the realm of Thor, and Breidablik, the home of Baldir. Each god of importance had their own palace within Asgard. Asgard is connected to Midgard through the Rainbow Bridge, otherwise known as the Bifrost, and is the only way in and out. There is not much known about Vanaheim, as it is not mentioned to the extent that Asgard is. Vanaheim was sired by Njord, the god of the sea, and his wife Skadi. The home of the Vanir tribe, who many consider to be the clan of lesser gods. The Vanir tribe consists of gods who are often associated with fertility and nature. The realm is full of vast forests, fields and plains. It also contains ruins of huge castles and mountain-sized citadels, known as the abandoned city of Vanir. The war between Vanaheim and Asgard raged for many years, until Freyr married Odin, merging their people together and achieving peace. Alfheim is the homeworld of the Light Elves. They are said to be as beautiful and luminous as the sun, so we can imagine that their homeworld is one of light and beauty. The elves do not take part in any of the described events in Norse myths, and not much is known about their homeworld, other than it is the palace of the god Freyr. Midgard, the land of humans.
So Midgard's a place where all people live. Asgard is a land of the gods, or the world of the gods. And Yggdrasil is a tree that connects all these worlds together, like parallel worlds or different realms, kind of like dimensions, which is kind of interesting because what is a mythology from thousands of years ago talking about other dimensions for?
As its namesake suggests, it is the middle land of the 9 worlds. Below Asgard, the realm of gods and goddesses, and above the underworld. Midgard shares its borders with Jotunheim, the land of giants. There is a fortress wall made from the eyebrows of Ymir that covers the entire realm to protect from attacks from the giants. The serpent Jormungand encircles Midgard and the wilderness at its borders. As well as the serpent, there were giants who dwell in the sea, waiting for those who were unlucky enough to cross their path. Svartalheim, often shown as the home of the Dark Elves and the Dwarves, although in some texts the Dwarves have their own realm called Nidavellir. The Dwarves are master smiths and craftsmen who live beneath ground. It is thought that Svartalheim and Nidavellir contain a network of complex subterranean mines and forges. The dwarves were known for their work on precious metals, and they would often build exquisite halls for themselves. There are many who believe that because Nidavellir is not part of the 9 worlds, that Nidavellir and Svartalheim are in fact the same place. This would make the dwarves and the dark elves the same creature.
The interesting part about that last one is the little people, even in Native American mythology and Scandinavian leprechauns everywhere, they like gold and jewels. Like in St. Lawrence Island, an island near where I live, town of Gamble, they say that the little people often look for gold, diamonds, and jewels. And they're known for stealing things from people's houses, like jewelry and things like that. And it's a pretty common theme that you hear throughout the world in different countries, that these little people like to steal things.
Jotunheim, the home world of the giants and neighbouring world to Midgard, often seen as the vast and mighty wilderness that surrounds the more civilized world of Midgard.
And the world of the giants, the vast and mighty wilderness, I've had tribes, different people from different tribes, tell me about Bigfoot being from another realm. And their realm is more wild, and they're giant. And they come here often. They know how to travel between worlds. And if this mythology is saying something similar to that, maybe there's something to it.
The dwelling place of the giants, Jotunheim is often described as having deep, dark forests and mountain peaks where the winter never eases its grip. It is a grim and inhospitable landscape where the most fierce giants in Norse mythology came from. Muspelheim, one of the two primordial worlds, involved in both creation and the Ragnarok. It is the land of fire and heat, and is seen to be the opposite to Niflheim. The fire giant Surt defends this land, and is believed to be impassable to any foreigner. The demons of this land would eventually march on Asgard, led by Surt himself.
This is another interesting one, a land of fire, because if these creatures, like the little people, Bigfoot, they're inter-realm travelers, like they're peoples from a different world that know how to travel between the parallel versions of Earth, then the stories of smelling sulfur associated with supernatural entities that are scary, that are tearing up houses and stuff, and they smell like a whiff of sulfur, and then people are like, oh my god, that's hell, this must be hell, because I could smell sulfur, and sulfur is of the devil. And the thoughts of hell, sulfur, and demons might come from a different version of Earth, where that smell of sulfur, if they travel here, comes with them. Because you got to think, why does it smell like sulfur? Why does it smell like rotten meat or trash, or the common smells that people smell with these strange creatures? And I'm not saying I know for sure, but maybe there's something to it.
Niflheim, the other half of the primordial worlds, playing its equal part in creation, and the opposite to Muspelheim. It is a cold and dark place, covered in mist with icy caverns scattered across the land. Many consider Niflheim and Helheim to be a similar place, as evil men would have to pass through Niflheim before they reached Hel.
I looked this up. The Heim at the end of Niflheim and all these words means home. So home of the whatever. I don't speak the Norse language, so.
Helheim, often referred to as Niflheim or Hel, it is the land of the dead. Those who were not honourable in their death, or banished by Odin, were sent to Helheim. It is ruled by Loki's daughter, Hel, which one would assume is where the name originated from. It is a lifeless land, and its gates are guarded by the wolf Garm. There is no definitive answer, but there is overlap between the realms of Helheim and Niflheim. There is much to discuss when mentioning the 9 worlds of Norse mythology. This was a quick overview, but I look forward to more detailed explanations in future videos. If you've enjoyed this video, then please...
Alright, I gotta say bravo to these guys. Good job on this video. This is pretty informative, nice, short, and to the point. With ancient stories like this, I like to take it with a grain of salt. Because just like the game Banana Phone, the more time through history myth is told, the older it is, the more distorted it becomes. So you got to try to look for some truths mixed with legend. And so far, we don't really know much about these other realms, or even if there are other realms. But the little information we do know are from these ancient stories where they talk as if they know what's going on in these different versions of Earth or these different realms. What I found interesting about the Norse mythology and the 9 realms is that Native American mythology, at least according to a few tribes, talks about the same thing. Different versions of Earth, invisible worlds, and that there's 9 of them, including Earth, and people from these worlds that know how to travel between them. So I was watching a video about people's afterlife experiences, and I saw this video by Shaman Oaks, a channel that I'm not really familiar with. It's called Man Dies and Learns That We Have It Completely Backwards. And this near-death experience is pretty interesting. He talks about meeting some strange, robed, ugly figures, and you guys can watch it for yourself. I'll link it in the description. But at the end of this video, he talks about reading stories about Edgar Cayce, which I have personally not researched, and how Edgar Cayce talks about astral projection and traveling through 8 different realms or 8 different levels of the afterlife, and how he met strange creatures like the little people, like gnomes or elves or goblins, whatever, while he was traveling through the realms. And it made me think, 8 realms. Earth would be number 9. So that's a lot like Norse mythology. Maybe there's something to it. I think there's only grains of truth in what Edgar Cayce has said. I don't take his word as the word of God. So let's just take it for what it is, like one guy's personal experience and what he thinks he saw, or how he interpreted the information. Check it out.
Edgar Cayce, when he used to leave his body to give a reading, he would sit quietly until the vibration started right in his eyes, and he would start that REM sleep, that blinking thing that you talked about, and I feel it all the time. Then he would find himself a little speck of light outside of his body, and he knew that he had to follow the light in order to stay safe, and that the first level of the realms that he visited or he moved through, he would move over to this staircase, and it was this like Jacob's ladder, and he would start up this staircase and he would pass these little hooded gnomes and elves and things, and they had very dark robes at the lower levels, and then they'd be light colored at the higher levels, and there'd be like 8 levels, I think, and he'd go into the Akashic records and get a reading and return. But he said that that first level was a place of nightmares. The things that were alive in that area were nightmarish. People were there, but they were greatly deformed. They'd have huge hands or giant feet, or just these body parts that were really bizarre looking. And he said as he would follow the light to this stairwell, and then he would ascend and he'd pull out of those places.
So interesting point about the thing he just said about people in the lower levels being deformed and monstrous. I was talking to my mom. My mom's a shaman, and she's able to talk to spirits and stuff like that. And when she was down the lower 48, she encountered a spirit that looked monstrous. And he told her his story. She thought it was a monster because it looked really creepy. And it told her his story about how he fell in a hole and died. And then he started to get deformed. And when he tried to talk to people, they'd get scared and run away. And I couldn't describe him for you, but he had random deformed features. And I heard another story about miners that they got trapped in a mine and they were feeding them food. And after a while, trying to hand them food, their hands would stick out. Their hands started to look scaly and deformed. And after that, they decided to seal it off and not interact with them anymore because it scared the people. It makes you wonder about shape-shifting and shamanism, and in the spiritual state or an other dimensional state, if you hold traits, like ugly traits? Will it physically deform you like a monster? Or are these realms spiritual? Are they like heavenly realms, like the afterlife? Or are they actual physical parallel versions of Earth? I'm not really sure. But let's continue this video anyway.
And I think this guy Michael Tamara, he talks about this thing as we go through these lives and we sort
That's
out
all I
what
want to see of the video. Never mind. Anyway, the parallels between Edgar Casey talking about 8 realms until he gets to the highest one where the Akashic records are. And I'm sure some of you have heard of the Akashic records. I couldn't say if they're real or not, but I guess we'll take his word for it. Kind of parallels with the 9 realms of Norse mythology, the Earth, and then 8 other realms, or 8 other dimensions, or 8 other levels, including the Earth. So that's 9. And the interesting thing about this is my mom she likes to read old Eskimo stories from like really old books that are not in print anymore. And she was reading a story about an Inupiaq shaman who was talking to a guy about how there's 9 different worlds, including this one. And if you go to these other worlds, you'll get stuck and you won't be able to come back. So don't go there. And so he's like, here, I'll show you one of the worlds. And he opened a hole in the air and he put a rope through it so the guy could pull himself up and look through the hole. And the guy stuck his head through and you could see a different land. So it wasn't the Arctic like what he would normally see here in Alaska. It was a foreign, like an alien landscape. And unfortunately, I don't have a description of what he saw, but basically he saw a different land, and the shaman said, don't go in there, you won't be able to come back because you don't know how to travel between worlds. But there are people from these other worlds that know how to travel between them, like the little people, the Bigfoot, giants, and other things like that. And I was like, 9 worlds including Earth. That's a lot like Norse mythology. And then again, Edgar Casey talking about 9 levels. And again, are these places spiritual or are they physical? It's hard to say. We had Paiute friends from Nevada come to Alaska, and my mom was talking to her about the story of the shaman and the 9 realms, or the 9 worlds that are connected to this one, invisible worlds. And then I brought up, hey, that's kind of like Norse mythology. They talk about 9 realms. And then the Paiute lady said, we have stories, the same story. There's 9 different worlds. And she didn't really go into much detail about what those other worlds were like. And I'd like to hear more about what she has to say, but the parallels are astounding. Norse mythology, Inupiaq mythology, and Indian mythology from the lower 48, all saying the same thing, that there's 9 different realms. And then Edgar Casey further validating the 9 world thing. It's just that we don't really know if these realms are like afterlife worlds or physical. I mean, someone might know, but it's all conjecture. Like, are we going to take their word for it? Are you going to take my word for it? Let me know what you think in the comments. Anyway, hit me up. I'm going to try to continue making videos. This is Mythological, aka Q. It's good to be back. I'll see you guys again later.